before looking at this detail and trying to solve it, I'm going to teach you something different, because we are working in 2D, we are working in section, we prepare the callouts, okay? But if you remember all these elements, the repeating detail, it's not a 3D object, so it's just it's a drawing, it's a 2D object, okay? And all these details that we inserted and all these hatches, they are 2D. So when we are working with a 3D object, we don't see it, okay? So I'm going to start from scratch. So I don't want to save the project, and then I'll open it again. So the goal is to create a 3D model. Okay, so this is 2D. It's fine. I mean, this is what we could do with AutoCAD, for example, and it's fine. So we have this, we have the callout. Where is it? Here. And yeah, if we prepare a set of documents with this, we can analyze the building, and we can understand the materials and the assemblies. Okay, so working in 2D, it's good, and I think everybody understands a section. Well, everybody, at least workers or people from construction companies, they can understand all this, especially if they have text and they can read what the layers are. But I think it's even more attractive if we can do this in a 3D environment. And Revit is a 3D software. So is there a way to do this in 3D? Yes and no. So we can, at least we can do something in 3D, because there are even that detail, this galvanized steel I-beam, it's not a 3D object, but we do have these kind of objects in 3D, okay? So today I'm going to show you what we can do, and there will be a moment in which we have to do this, and we have to all these hatches, and it has to be 2D in section. But there are other details like the coping or the shape or all these layers that we can have a 3D detail, and that will help us understand what the building is, okay, with a 3D model. We are working with Revit, so we have to make the most of Revit because it's a 3D environment, it's a 3D software. We are not going to work with the callout. We are going to work with the section, and we are going to work with a 3D model. Okay, so the 3D, it's this. Of course, we have to insert more footings and all that stuff. But so far, I want to show you how to work in 3D with parts. If you remember, we created parts with this. Okay, so we don't have the wall itself. We have different parts. We selected this, and as you can see, we don't have these create parts activated because we have already created the parts. What if we are working with a 3D? This is the wall, this one, sorry, this is the wall we are working with. This section is on this wall. If we select this wall now, look at this, it has the create parts not activated. But here, we don't have parts. Why? If we select other wall, like this one, we can create parts here, okay? And if we create parts like this, now we see the layers here. You see that in the 3D model, we can see different layers. We see the brick, the air gap. Is it clear if we hide the line? No, probably if we do with realistic materials. Okay, so here we have layers. Okay, so we have the concrete block, the thermal insulation, the brick, and And well, this is the roof. On the roof, we have an EPDM membrane. It's a black stuff, so that's why this is black. And here now the layers show up. Okay, so as you can see, now we see the layers. So this is the brick, this is the rigid insulation, this is the concrete masonry unit, and then we have the internal finish. And it works because we have in the section, you remember that we made this wall, the brick wall, lower than this, and here on the 3D view, it's lower than this one. Okay, so at least something is working as a 3D. Sometimes we can't, I'm going to, because this is, Revit is not easygoing. Sometimes we have to deal with Revit, and we have to make Revit do what we want to do. We are working with this section, and I'm going to view and work with a different section now, with this one. This is section 3. On section 3, when we have this level of detail, we need a fine level of detail so that we can see layers here. And as you can see here, parts are not visible, and we have the parts here. So what can we do? Because I can't create parts if I'm working with this wall on the 3D view. The wall is here, so this is the wall, and we have parts on it. Why can't I see these parts in the section? Okay, so we don't have parts, and we cannot create that parts. What's going on? If we click here, if we reveal hidden elements, the parts are hidden. Okay, so we have the wall. So you see that we can select the whole wall, or we can just select the parts. But by default, sometimes parts are hidden. So we have to, no, we have to, we have to select one of the parts, right click, and we have to unhide in view this category, because the category part is hidden in this section. So if we do this, and then we visualize things again, we have the wall, but we have the parts. And I would recommend you hide the category walls so that we only have parts. Okay, sometimes we work with walls and we have parts in section view. So now in this section 3, we don't have the wall here because we have hidden the category walls. So probably if we do this, okay, if we unhide this category, now we see the wall. But in this wall, we can create parts because on the 3D view, on that wall, we don't have parts. Okay. And in that wall, we don't have parts either. What do we want to do? Do we want to create parts in all the walls because we want to do this fully 3D? Or what do we want to do? Well, sometimes we don't know what we're going to do. Let's say that I want to create parts here. I want to create parts here on section 3. Now I can see parts because the category parts is unhidden. Okay, so I have parts in this wall, but I do have the wall itself. So I think I would hide the category walls and I will work only with parts because otherwise will be confusing. Try to understand this because it's not, sometimes it's not easy to understand what we are doing with parts and walls. If you select something and this is not activated, that means that you have parts on your drawing, but probably the parts are hidden. So then you have to go here and then you have to unhide the parts category. Well, the second thing is this. We worked with parts and now we have a good section, but unfortunately we have to do the same thing every time we work with different sections. The good thing is once we have done this in section, the wall we have been working with is the same in 3D. Okay, for example, in this wall, we haven't done anything yet. So all these layers are at the same level. And this wall the same. So we have worked only with that one, with this wall. And in this wall, this layer is lower than that wall. Remember what we did before. We this one. We had this, well, something else we can do. Nice. We can select the wall and we can, no, it doesn't work. I want to do this at the same time. Okay, we can use a filter, and in filter we have parts. Okay, so we just apply this selection to the parts and we can show shape handles. So now we have shape handles in every single layer. We don't have to do it one by one. And if you remember, we had this rigid insulation. We have to move it down. Then we had this element, so we had to move it down as well. That was this is a rigid insulation, and this is a metal deck. Okay, so I have to move it even lower. I have to extend the metal deck up to this. I have to extend the rigid insulation here, and so everything works better if we use colors. Okay, but we need to remember what we did. And then this is the brick wall. I can go down, and everything I'm doing is reflected somewhere. I don't know where. Yes, here. Now we have these two walls, or we can have these two walls if we align this face and this face. They are at the same level. So now everything is in 3D. But if we are working with colors and it's useful, we can either create the realistic. I'm not a fan of Revit textures, so I'd rather with shaded, consistent colors. I don't like it. So you can work with, here we have a texture. What happens if we select this, we override graphics in view by element. And then we have to understand this. We have the surface patterns. So what we are looking at is the surface. When we're working with sections, we look at the cut patterns. So today we have to change the surface patterns. So this is by material, and we have selected the brick. That's fine. But what about the color? I want to make it like a brick color, like brownish or apply. Okay. But is this what we want? Not really. So I have to override graphics in view by element. If we change this, we change the color of the surface pattern. I want to change the background. So in the background, let's see what happens. I will use a solid fill. I would use this color, the brick color, apply. Okay, that's better. Okay, I have the material, I have the texture, but I can select the color here. If this is the rigid insulation, this is the rigid insulation. Oh, and for sure, we can select all these parts because we can select the brick in the walls. And then we override the graphics in view by element. I changed the background color. I don't remember what background color I selected, by something like that. And it doesn't work. Great. By element. Oh, because it's by material, it has to be solid. Ugh. Do it again. So I select the brick, override, and I need solid, and I need a color here. Okay, so now the bricks are the same. What if I want to select the thermal insulation? This is the thermal insulation. So I'm going to select all these layers of thermal insulation. This one. And that one. And now right click, override by element. It doesn't have any pattern, so I'll work with a solid fill. And if I remember, it was 250, 250, and 100. Apply. Okay. So now our thermal insulation is yellow. And finally, we can work with the concrete. 2, 3, and 4. Override by element. And if it's a concrete material, it can be solid, gray. Okay, so now we have brick, we have thermal insulation, and we do have the concrete wall. So why do I want to do this in 3D? Because there's something that I like. Well, I like and I think it's very useful when it comes to show what kind of materials we're using. Okay, and okay, so we're going to create a section with an axonometric view. We can work with a section box, and this section box, we can drag this section box here, and we have different materials because we have different layers. And since we can control each layer, okay, let's do this. Okay, first we drag the layers. So this is the brick. This is the thermal insulation. Show the handle. thermal insulation, and this is the brick wall. Now, if we drag the section box, we can see the wall with all its layers. There's a thermal insulation here. We have the thermal insulation is the yellow one, the brick, and here we have the gray with this. You see that, unfortunately, this is the cut pattern. Okay, so if we don't want to see this ugly cut pattern, that we have to override graphics in view. And now we have to work, we don't work with the surface pattern, we work with the cut pattern. And I told you that we don't have the detail of the concrete masonry unit here. So what I would do is to, I don't want to see the foreground, and for the color, for the background, I can use a solid fill, and I can use a gray. There you go. Okay, for the brick and thermal insulation, that works. But if I want to convey the idea, because this is the section, this is not the section, I have just extended that material. Okay, and now I can show different layers and different materials here, and I can do the same with the with this, with the different parts we have here. Okay, in the roof. So I can show shape handles, but I won't start with this. Okay, so this is the EPDM. And now if you want to show different materials, you can drag this way. Then this is a rigid insulation. This is another layer of rigid insulation. And this is the metal deck, if I'm not, okay, this is the metal deck. Okay, so here you can control all the layers. And we can select this one and that one, override graphics. If this is the same rigid insulation, we can, I don't want to see any cut pattern. I want to see a solid fill of 250, 250, and 100. Oh, this is the cut pattern. Sorry, I have to select the surface pattern with the same color, 250, 250, and 100. There you go. If this is the EPDM layer, this is something gray, dark gray, almost black. So we can select a solid fill, something dark gray. And this is a metal deck. So for the metal deck, we can select something solid and grayish, but lighter than the EPDM. Okay. If we want to see a section now, you can control this. You can drag the section box here. And well, something cool. Now we can hide the section box. We can hide levels. And we can always specify the materials we are looking at. Okay, so this can be the brick wall. And I would copy this. Or select, copy, and let's go up. That would be the thermal insulation or rigid insulation. And so on and so forth. Okay, so that's a good way because it's not just the section. So in the section, we have the same idea, we have the same materials, we have the call out. So in the call out, we have a detail, so we can specify those details. But even in the 3D view, we can have the same information. And the 3D view has the advantage that we can insert actual 3D elements here, okay? Because we can select a structural beam, and we can place that beam. We need to know where we are, so we have to do this from level 12 maybe. And if we place the beam, say this one, specification reference level on level 12, I can place it, I'm going to place it here, see what happens. And then on the 3D view, yep, we have the beam here. Obviously, this is not the right level. We can move it, remove constraint, and or we can use an offset. So let's say that we want to go 5 feet up. Well, it's too much. Anyway, you know what I mean. We can place this with we can end up placing this beam right here. If this is what we want to do. Okay, but now this is an actual 3D element. So if we have the actual 3D element, this one, we don't need the fake 3D element. We can just work with the real 3D, and in the section it will show up. Okay, so the more things we can do with 3D elements, the less things we have to do in the section when we are working in the callout. Okay, so now the callout, well, if it had the right dimension, it doesn't have the right dimension. But if we had this, we wouldn't have to insert this on the callout. We already have the element. So working with 3D objects is more useful than just working with callouts. There are things that we have to do with a callout. For example, this hatch. We cannot do this hatch in 3D. We cannot do this these lines for the waterproof and whatever. We have to work with the callout with this. But the more things we can do with the 3D view, the better. And there's something else we can do with the 3D view. We can do the coping. If we do this with the architecture component model in place, it's something that belongs to roofs or to walls. What would I I think it belongs to walls. If we create this by extrusion, the thing is that we have to set a work plane, because I don't know if we will be able to see this now. Yeah, we are. Okay, we have this shape. Now we apply the offset, let's say 5 inches, 0.5 inches and 0 feet. We can do this. Now we make sure that we trim everything and we close this shape. We finish that detail. And now it's a 3D element on this 3D view. And we can drag it in this direction. Okay, so that we have another 3D element here. And this will show up in our section. Yes, there you go. Okay. It's not well, I think we have to move it. Yep. And on the 3D view, it's there. Okay, so the more things we can do with the 3D, the better, because the less we have to work in the callout, or the less we have to work in the section. If we duplicate things, it doesn't make any sense. So I can have this detail line in the callout and this detail element in the as a 3D. Okay, so eventually I have to get rid of the detail line, because there you go. It's the same thing with this element. If we want to increase this, we can edit type and we can change the height. I think the height is 4 inches, so let's make it 8. Yep, and now we have to move it up. Yep. And we have this now on the 3D view. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's work in 3D, and I think working in 3D, we get to know what we are doing and layers, and especially how we assemble all these parts. And then once we have everything with a 3D view, we take the section or the callout, and everything's already there. We only have to work just with colors or textures or these line types to make them, by the way, we have to overwrite in view the cut patterns, the cut lines, sorry, cut lines, weight, and let's make it very light. And probably this one, we have to do the same. Cut line, weight, 1. Okay. It's not easy, but working with details, it's not easy. But I think it's one of the most important parts in the construction business. If we are not able to convey the workers what we want, then they will make the decision. And believe me, you will make better decisions than them, the workers or the construction company, because they want to save money, they want to save time. You don't want to save money or time. You want to make a good detail. Okay, so everything you can think beforehand, uh, those are issues that you won't have during the construction process. So if you can draw these kind of details and everybody, so now there is no excuse. They have to do this and they have to do it well. Okay, so last time I showed you how to do this with using Annotate and using detail lines or detail components or repeating detail components, and that's fine. We always can use that. For example, we cannot do this with 3D. We can't model one by one different blocks. Doesn't make any sense. So for this, we can use, or for this pattern, we can use a repeating detail component. We can do that. But if we are using coping or beams like this, something that it's repeated, it's not only in the section, then I would use the real element, and then I would try to work with the 3D. Okay, what's next? So we have to continue with this detail. But again, before doing anything in Revit, I'm old-fashioned, I'm getting old, so I need to know what I want to do. Because I don't know, I can't start working in Revit and say, okay, let's move it down and then, no, I need to know what I'm going to do, and then I can do that with Revit. So I'm going to share my second screen. Where am I? Here. Okay. Um, this is this connection, the footing and the floor slab and the wall connection, I think is one of the most important things we can do, uh, because the water is the enemy. So we have to start with the footing. This is the footing, and the footing is buried in the ground. How much? It depends. It depends on the, if we have rock, if we have shallow rock, we only have to dig like 3-4 feet maximum. If rock is at 50 feet, we have to dig 50 feet, and then we need to use other kind of foundations. So on the foundation, we need a structural element. In this case, the structural element is the concrete masonry unit. Okay, so we are working with a concrete masonry unit, and a concrete masonry unit wall, it has different elements. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so this is the footing. The bearing wall is resting on the footing, and now we need the rest of layers, but we have we do need the concrete slab. So the footing level, this level, uh, well, we can rest the concrete slab on this level, but I don't recommend you do this. So I'm going to uh, place the concrete slab here. Okay, and this is each concrete block is 8 inches. So this is 24 inches. It's around 2 feet. It's not bad. Then we need to place thermal insulation. We can place thermal insulation either above or below or underneath the concrete slab. I think last time we did it, well, it has good points and bad points. So let's analyze both. If I place the thermal insulation here, okay, so imagine that I'm working with thermal insulation here, just underneath the concrete slab. Uh, this, and this is the thermal insulation. Well, if the heat is here, this is inside and this is outside. Well, we need to protect the wall. So we need to place thermal insulation in the wall. So let's work with more thermal insulation. We need a wall thermal insulation here inside the wall. Is it enough? Here we have a beautiful thermal breach. Okay, so that would be a beautiful thermal breach because the heat will go this way. Okay, we don't want this. So we have to prevent this from happening. I'm going to place thermal insulation here. Okay, with this, can I solve this problem? Well, maybe I can solve this problem. If the heat is here, it's inside, it will go this way. Here it finds thermal insulation. It goes this way, it finds thermal insulation. So it has to go all the way down, something like that. Okay, I think this is more, it's more protected against heat. So yes, this can be a good option. But this is the thermal insulation, and we can't see this. We can't have the thermal insulation exposed. For sure, I would need uh, the gypsum wall here, and here I would need a layer for the flooring. Okay. Okay, it can work, but we are working with this wall. We are working with the thermal insulation here. So this is the thermal insulation outside. There will be an air layer, and here we had the brick. The brick layer, the air cavity, and the thermal insulation. Well, now, as you can see, this brick layer is floating in the middle of the air. So this is not acceptable. What can we do? Well, and this, even this thermal insulation is floating. We need something here. So what can we place? We can place another concrete masonry unit here, but it can be a 4-inch one. Okay, so that was a 10-inch concrete masonry unit. This can be 4. Okay, so at least if we have this here, the thermal insulation can rest on this element. It doesn't go all the way up to the footing, because a thermal insulation is not a reliable material. You cannot put thermal insulation in contact with soil, water. I wouldn't do that. Okay, but I need to something to hold or to bear the weight of this brick wall. So we can have an angular element. It can be like element like this. This is bolted to the concrete masonry unit. So this is an angle, L-shaped steel element. And now, well, I think it's working. We have thermal insulation in the floor slab. We have thermal insulation inside the wall. We have thermal insulation outside the wall. We have something here to bear the weight of this rigid insulation. We have an air chamber, and this air chamber is ventilated. So, I mean, it's good that we can have air going through this air chamber. Okay, that's good. But we need waterproofing. Uh, what do we need here? Okay, usually when we're working with um, slabs resting directly, we can have either a crawl space. That would be a, but if we have a crawl space, what can we do to rest this thermal insulation? So we usually work with aggregates. Okay, so those are aggregates. Those are stones, different sizes. And why do we need this? Okay, so here we have the soil, the compact soil. So I can use the soil here. So this is the same hatch that Revit is using. So we have compact soil underneath the slab as well. The slab, the footing. And we can have water. I told you that water is the enemy here. It's our enemy. And if it rains outside, if it rains, the water, so the soil is wet, and then the water tries to go up. So it goes up through capillarity. If water finds these spaces between aggregates, so it doesn't go up. If we had compact soil, the water would go up that way. Okay, so that's why we need aggregates, because we have air cavities between two different stones, so that water cannot go up. But yeah, we need the soil somewhere, so we can have the soil here. Okay, just sloping out so that if it rains, at least we are not forcing the water to get into the building. Okay, so this is the compact soil as well. And we have that slope going out, but I'm not happy with this yet. we need a waterproof layer. So if we are working with a waterproof layer, let's make it thicker. What would I do? Water can go through capillarity. It can go through the footing and through the concrete block, and it can end up entering this way. Okay, so this is what water would do. So we have to stop the water somewhere. So where am I going to stop the water? Okay, so we can have this waterproof layer here. I can run this waterproof layer between the concrete masonry unit and the thermal insulation, and I can go this way. Even I can go all the way, separating the thermal insulation from the concrete slab. Okay, so if water tries to go up, okay, so it can happen. Here it doesn't happen because we have the aggregates, but here the water can go up through capillarity, and it finds a barrier. It finds a waterproof layer, the green one, so that water stops here. So we can have water, so we can assume that all this is going to be wet or soaked with water, the footing and that first part of the wall, but at least we protect inside from this water. Okay, so I think this is the detail we are going to work with. But first, I have to figure out. So when I'm doing this, I'm thinking, and then I'm using Revit just to do this, not the other way around. I can't think using Revit, so I use my hand drawing to think. And now I have, I think I have solved everything. I have the thermal insulation. I don't have a thermal bridge because I have this layer of thermal insulation. I have the other layer of thermal insulation. Again, if we are talking about heat through this wall, we have a double layer of thermal insulation. Here we have a layer of thermal insulation. So what does the heat try to do? It will try to do something like that, but it's too complicated. Anyway, if I want to prevent this, I think I would be even happier if I extend the thermal insulation just below this line, and I make my concrete slab just here. So this is the concrete slab. Okay, because I want to protect this corner against the heat going out. Okay, let's do this. So there are, now we have to deal with the levels here. This is my first level. This is the level where the floor is. We can say level 0. And then we have to go down. How much? Well, we need the thickness of this. It can be, let's say, a foot. Then we need the thermal insulation, let's say 8 inches. And then 16 inches going down. Okay, so we can have another level here, the level of the footings. And if this is 16 inches, is 1 foot and 4 inches. Okay, so this is 3 feet. Okay, so there is a difference between 3 feet between the floor level and the footing level. Okay, let's do it. So this is the this is what we have now, and I created this. This is level 0, but now I think we can make, instead of level -1, we can make it level -3. So if this is 3 feet, so let's make it level -3. Well, by the way, here I made this floor. Okay, it doesn't matter. In this detail, I have the thermal insulation inside, and I don't have the thermal insulation outside. Okay, so I can do that. Then we've got this. This layer is the gypsum board, so the gypsum board doesn't have to go. Okay. And what the hell is this? Well, I think this is a reflection. Can we move this down? Yes, we can. This is the brick, so I can move it here. Okay, and this is the thermal insulation, and the thermal insulation can be here. Okay, and here we have the aggregates and all that stuff. I need to insert here repeating, no, a detailed component. I inserted the CMU, so it's a 4-inch CMU. Hmm? 4x4? No, I need a 4x8. There you go. I'm going to do this. And there you go. Okay, so now this thermal insulation can rest on this concrete block. I had 6 inches. Okay, so I think I can make this 6x8, and I can make this 6x8. There you go. Okay, so now I've got this thermal insulation resting on this small wall. So this is not the structural. The structural wall is the 10-inch concrete masonry unit. This is just a 6-inch, and we make this to protect the thermal insulation from that. And then I should insert here, because the brick has to rest on that. But I think it's enough for now. The only thing that I don't have is the aggregates and the aggregates here. So how can I do that? I think I'm going to use annotate field region. Okay. And what kind of hatch? I need to find something appropriate for aggregates. Element, the surface by material. Well, let's leave it that way because I can't find anything better. But I think that's good at this level because we still have to create the call out. Okay, so again, this is the section. So in the section, we have all these here. We can move this up, by the way. Yep. So I think at this level, it's fine. We don't need more detail. Here we have the compact soil. Here we have the aggregates. This is the concrete slab, the thermal insulation, and I protect this corner. So I like this detail better than the other one. And then I place this up to these two concrete masonry units, and that's it. So I think that level of detail is enough. So let's create a second call out. Where is call out? Call out view call out. And I have section 1, call out 2. There you go. I have all the parts here, so that's good. The problem is that I have to change all the layers, all the hatches again. This is the only one that I like. And I override. So let's make everything not visible. And now I have to do it here again. What's the problem? I have created this wall and these elements are not showing up here because in this section, these two details, it's not a 3D. Okay, so when we are working with the callout 2, we don't see that. But now at least I know where the thermal insulation is, so I can override graphics in view. I think the cut pattern, the the cut pattern, I think I remember the color. It was 250, 250, 100. Um, by element. Is it the background? Oh, it's not visible. Okay, there you go. I can create annotate re annotate component repeating detail. So I want to work with a concrete masonry unit. There you go. I can create details, the 6-inch concrete masonry unit here, and there. Where is it? Annotate detail 6-inch. Okay, so now I have to align this here. There you go. This is the brick. So I'm going to move it up. What is this? Oh, this is air. When you have air, you can always exclude. Okay, so we don't see the air. Okay, so we can restore parts or we can exclude it. Okay, so if you select this, you can exclude the part and then it disappears. Uh, so when you have air, I recommend you exclude the part because we need a void here, but we don't have a hatch. We don't have to do this. And for the brick, we need the annotate repeating detail component. And now this has to be a brick. Go. And what about this? I told you that here we would need uh, like angle. So we have to insert something, probably a family, use imperial, detail, and where was it? Metals, structural steel framing. Okay, so now we have to find something like an angle L shape. Like this. It's open. Oof. I don't know, 8. And now annotate detail. This is the L shape. Yeah, I think it works well. This here. Now we'll rotate. And move it. Perfect. We're almost done. We need insulation, and with the width 3, we go up. This, what is the width of this element? Is 4. Okay, so annotate insulation 4 inches. There you go. And this is 6. So now we need 6 inches. And we go up. The only thing I don't like is the hatch for aggregates, and I need to work with the waterproofing layer. Okay, so let's work with the waterproof first. Okay, now we have to work with hatches, so we can select everything. Override graphics by element, projection lines, and we are going to place everything the weight 1. Uh, projection lines, the weight 1 line. Okay, but do I have to do it one by one? Projection, and come on, let me select all this, and now override graphics, element, projection, weight 2 can work. Okay, so now we need the waterproof layer. Starting here, it goes between these 2 brick walls, and then it goes up to this point. Okay, let's do it. So I need to go to Annotate. No, sorry. To Model Line. Make a plane. Here. No. Okay, so it should be A. A. Lines. No. So override. It was hidden, and it was like 5 or even more. 7. Okay, that works. I see what happens. Okay, so we have to bring this line to front. If we edit work plane, instead of grid A, I see grid F. Nope. P. Nope. Okay. Okay. Anyway, you know what I mean. We have to figure out how to bring this line through this point here, and that's it. Okay, so we have to go all this way, then all the way up, 1, 2, 3 blocks, and then all the way horizontally underneath the concrete slab. And finally, we would need just the hatch, so we can use the annotate field region, the same thing we did last time, now with the rectangle like this. And let me see if I can find something better, like element, material. I can work with concrete, but changing the scale. No. Well, we have to find a better texture for these aggregates, because I don't like this one. Anyway, this is what we wanted to do. Okay, so now we have the um, brick resting on this angle. So this angle is connected. So there should be like a bolt here connecting this angle to this concrete masonry unit. This masonry unit is bearing the weight of this thermal insulation. Here we have the air cavity. We protect all these things against the water by this line. Okay, so we only have to create this line in this direction and then just go underneath between the aggregates and the concrete slab. And that's a good detail. And now we have to work with probably a different sheet, because in this one, yeah, when we have something like that, probably a vertical um, orientation works better, either vertical or we can make it bigger. I always recommend you edit the family. And if we edit the family, you create your own. There you go. And now we can load into the project and override. Yeah, I think it will work better. Or probably would need a bigger. and the callout2 has to be here. Okay, so now we have to be careful. These callout both have to be at the same scale. So this is 1 foot equals 1 inch. So the callout to the scale has to be foot 1 inch. We have to drag it now here. Okay, and that only works when they are perfectly aligned. So we have to, okay, so you see that there's a highlight. So when they are perfectly aligned, they are highlighted, and this is what we need. Okay, so they have to be perfectly aligned. So this is the top of the wall, and this is the starting of the wall. So now it looks like something professional. Okay, so we have the section here, and then we have the 2 callouts defining this element and that element. So it's yeah, it looks well. Okay, that's all for today.